Lonesome Lands podcast. Lonesome Report. What is today? Merry Christmas, everybody. December 22nd, 6:01 p.m. Central Time. What time is it in Nevada?
It is, let's see, it is 4 o'clock.
Yeah. I'm an hour late getting to Jack, but Shad brought it on me last week in the middle of the episode or whenever. He said, "We're going to have a real good guest next week." I thought, who's that going to be? He had no idea. I didn't know. We didn't know we were gonna have a guest, but I thought, we've had a congresswoman on in Harriet Hageman, and then we had cabinet member on Brooke Rollins. We just keep working up the line. Now we've got
That's right.
Trump's good buddy Jack Payne,
You went backwards a long ways, boys.
owner of Nevada Livestock Marketing, owner and operator. Works the ring. I got a picture of Jack in the ring with a Lonesome Lands ball cap on. And also owner Alpine Ranch, right? Is that what you
Yeah,
call it? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Big old spread out in Fallon, Nevada. And this episode is brought to you by our good friends George and Brett Kenzy at Kenzy Backgrounding LLC. They are a fourth generation family ranching operation that has grown from a cow calf operation into an EPA permitted feed yard specializing in calf backgrounding. And they really just wanted to support the program. So they're sponsoring today's episode. They're centrally located in South Central South Dakota, having feed resources and the skills and experience to precondition and grow calves for finishing operations located in Nebraska and eastern South Dakota or Iowa. They pride themselves on happy repeat customers and always look forward to developing new relationships with fellow cattlemen. And in there, the most important part is they are proud supporters of independent family farms and ranches and wish to continue their operation into generations to come. So thank you to George and Brett for helping us out and always being strong supporters of ours, and especially those independent family farms and ranches that we're working to help also. Also, they're big supporters of RCAF and South Dakota stock growers and other associations that have helped us out along the way.
And they're good guys.
Yeah, there you
Amen.
go. All right. Well, Shad, what do you think? This is
I'm
your
glad
guest.
I'm glad we picked him. I'm glad I was right all the time. We got the best. We got the most notable guest to date on the show today. Merry Christmas, everybody.
I
Merry
picked
Christmas.
him. You just brought it up that we were going to have a guest, and then I had to find one. I thought the one guy everybody wants to hear from, Jack
Well,
Payne.
we found the right one, man.
Yeah.
You tried everybody else, they wouldn't answer. You finally.
No, I thought well, who would people want to hear from?
Yeah.
The guy who was hanging out in the White House a couple months ago.
Absolutely.
And so today he said, so how far did you have to drive? 5 mile an hour today?
That road's 28 miles long, but it was a little better today.
So
And
how
then,
fast are you going?
maybe 15. But let's see, last time I drove that road, I got like way out in the borrow pit and basically just drove along the side of the road. And I see somebody else has been following my tracks from last time I was down there. So they kind of got that packed down. So I thought about taking a picture of it, but I didn't. But yeah, I just drove down the borrow pit for a long way. So
What were you doing, Jack?
what's that?
What were you doing?
Well, I was just hauling a set of cows down the Dixie Valley. Just
Ah, gotcha.
for your viewers that don't know, it was a paved road. My wife's mom drove school bus out of there in the late '60s, and it was dirt then, and then they paved it. And now part of this Navy expansion here in Fallon,
Ruined it.
they don't want the public going down there anymore. So they're taking our private property there, 439 acres, in eminent domain. The Navy is, because they don't want any more. They don't want any lights or magnetic field. They don't want anybody camping down there because they do training there, night training with helicopters.
Okay.
So they're not taking our grazing allotment. They're going to let us continue to run cattle down there. They just don't want anybody camping there. So they went in, they ground up this paved road and made it into a dirt road, but they don't maintain it. And just the way that they did it, it hasn't packed down. So the washboard literally, like, they're 6 inches deep. So we haul cattle in and out of there several times a year. I've already broke 2 bull wagons in half, literally. I mean, just snapped them in half.
Jeez.
So I learned my lesson now. I go 5 miles an hour and just jiggle down there.
Wow. 28 miles. Heesh.
Yeah.
Can
So
you
anyway, I
fix?
wasn't sure how that was going to work out for timing to be here on time. So
Yeah, and then we were late anyway. Can you fix a bull wagon that's snapped in half?
not very well. No, I mean, it's all aluminum, you know, so
That's like,
you could take it
I was
somewhere
wondering.
and have a good shop redo it, but you'd probably better off just go buy another used bull wagon than to put that kind of money in it.
Hmm. So it's like saddles, right? You once told me you don't like using good tack because your horses are too wild; they tear it up.
Yeah, I've had the same saddle for a long time, but it's been
Oh.
pretty tough stuff. So I roped a cow one time going down a hill. Well, I don't know if you got time for this story, but there was a cow my father-in-law was on that ranch when he first bought it, and she was wild. She wasn't that wild, like she wouldn't run off. She was just super smart. She would sneak off and hide, and so she had these little Mustang bulls living with her, and they were just absolute garbage. And I didn't want them breeding my cows. And we were first leasing that place then, and so I told my crew, I was like, okay, next time we see that cow, we're going to get her. It don't matter what's going on or how many cows we got, we're going to get her. And so I saw her, so I built to her and roped her, or went to rope her, and I freaking missed her right horn, and she got away. So I built to her and roped her again going downhill, and there was a big old juniper tree. And the horse I was riding, he was a buckskin. We don't have any anymore, but every time he would rope something, he would just go left. He had never been like rodeoing on, like nobody had used him in the arena, but it was just his natural response. When you rope something, he went left. Well, here comes this big old tree, and he went left, and she went
Oh,
right. And
oh.
yeah, I already had like three dollies. There was no, I couldn't let go. I mean, it was too late, so I just kept stirring the biscuits. And when everything came tight, it jerked him into this tree, and it tipped her clean over backwards, just like a calf roping calf. I mean, the jerk down rule was not was definitely in effect, and it tipped her over backwards, and it sheared my saddle horn off clean with the swells of my
Oh
saddle.
my gosh.
You know how nylon ropes have a lot of stretch to them.
Oh.
So when that saddle horn sheared off, it just let that horse go. And I don't know how he kept his feet, but he landed like 20 feet away from that tree, like a slingshot. You know, it was
With
crazy.
you on him.
Yeah, with me on him, like what? And I looked down on my hand, and my hand didn't have a rope burn on it. Just the whole hand was just white. It
Oh.
was it was freaky.
Oh my gosh.
So
Hmm.
yeah, that saddle had to be rebuilt. So it's got a horn on it again. But that was the worst wreck it's ever seen.
See, I knew we had a good guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, all you have to do with Jack is say, "Hey, what you been up to?" And then he'll
Yeah.
have something. He's
What's today's story?
yeah.
But I
So
suppose what people want to hear about your trip to the White House and how that all started. I guess how did it start? AJ just call you, AJ Richards, or how did like to go back to the beginning, the whole
yeah, I
plan
think
and
it
everything?
started with AJ at Turning Point.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, before Charlie Kirk was
right.
assassinated.
And so I guess for people not familiar, we had Brooke Rollins on a little while ago. The goal with her, we didn't end up talking about it much, but there's a USDA's plan to fortify the beef industry. Jack had met with her and was one of the people who was kind of integral in putting that whole thing together. And so that's what we're talking about, and which led him to the White House in the Oval Office and all kinds of drama from
Yeah,
there on. But yeah, I guess. And so AJ Richards, who is at fromthefarm.org, has a relationship there with Brooke, Secretary Rollins, and the USDA. And yeah, I guess that's how he got the relationship, right? But from Turning Point, he spoke at Turning Point USA.
he
Um,
spoke at Turning Point USA just about food security and national security and
mhm.
where we're at with the beef deal. And so he got a special invite. And then I think he was just visiting with her about, ranching in general and beef. And she was asking him what's going on? Like, why are we short of beef? And so he started talking about public land grazing along with several other factors. And she said, well, could you put a team together of public land ranchers that could come speak to me? And so he reached out to his cousin in Southern Nevada, and his cousin markets cattle here through our sale barn. And he said, well, you should reach out to that crazy guy up there in Fallon, Nevada, that Jack Payne. And so AJ reached out to me. I think I was just flying home from Montana for summer meeting at USCA. Had landed in Boise and was driving back to our ranch in Idaho when AJ called me.
So you'd never talked to him before?
No, didn't even know who he was.
Oh
Oh.
wow. I just assumed you guys was buddies.
Yeah, me and Shad have known him for well over a year, I guess. You've probably known him since a couple years, going to
I've known him
RCAF.
about
Yeah,
three or 4 years. Yeah.
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 And so then he said we're going to DC and you want to come along? Is that pretty much what
Yeah,
it
he
was?
said, "You want to be a part of this group?" And I said, "Yeah." So we started having some Zoom calls and just kind of getting to know each other and talking over these issues, mainly on public land grazing. And one thing that I kept saying as every time we would talk, I'd say, guys, we know a lot about public land grazing, but we're only using 5% of our brains because we also know a lot about ranching and the livestock business and beef and how we got to where we are. And this is more than just, Nature Conservancy and Western watersheds closing off grazing. This is a lot of these ranchers have gone out of business because it wasn't profitable. So we obviously need to address the market side of this if we want to encourage ranchers to go out and invest money in cattle and buying ranches and fortifying the American cow herd. They need to have some confidence in the market before they're going to take that leap.
That was exactly what we've been talking about for a long time. But it all started with you and AJ and Hayden Ballard being in Washington, D.C. and standing for the truth.
First meeting before we went the second time, that was 45 days prior when we went there the first time and got to go into the White House. Of course, we just toured around there and had lunch in the White House with Secretary Brooke Rollins. And I think Kelly Loeffler was there. They were having a separate meeting that same time, or just separate lunch. I think the Secretary of Labor was in there. It was a cool little trip. And then from there, we left and went to the agricultural USDA building. And I'll tell you guys about that ride over there in the big black SUVs. That was pretty wild. That was
pretty
a whole
cool
in itself. Yeah, just the way they drive and all the security and these things popping up and letting us through, and it was just crazy. But anyway, so that was our first trip, and then just on a last minute deal, we got invited to because they were supposed to have that event here in Fallon,
right.
at our livestock auction, the announcement, and then that got canceled because of the government shutdown, and then President Trump made those comments about lowering the price of beef, and the beef industry reacted, and so I think that announcement to fortify the American cattle industry they decided, well, let's give these ranchers some good news about what we're doing. So let's have this announcement in Fallon or in Washington, D.C. So I got invited to that, and we were in the middle of a big feeder sale that week, and my family and my crew said, you got to go. So I took off and went back there. And then that's when all that happened, that announcement and press release was supposed to happen. And then those other guys no-showed and didn't tell the president they weren't coming.
Yeah, the announcement actually didn't get any attention at all. And the announcement is what we were really looking forward to, because we were going to do it in Fallon. And then that all got changed because of the government shutdown. So that announcement was the most important part of the whole shebang, right? And it got looked over, and that's what I told Secretary Rollins. I said, this is a great document to help fortify our industry, and we need the people to know about it. And I think would bring some certainty, and that's exactly what we did on that interview. So yeah, wow.
Yeah. That was a great interview. I went back and watched it a couple times just because there was so much good in it. So,
well, thanks. I haven't ever watched it. I don't ever watch our interviews, so I would like to tell our audience, because it's Christmas, we'd sure appreciate a few commissions on that market, on everybody that went long in the market after that.
Don't do that, because then once something will happen, and
right.
If you get credit for, that's why I told Chad afterwards. You get credit for it going up, then you're going to get twice as much credit when it goes
joke.
down.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go back, so yeah, your event in Fallon is something like I think anybody that heard about it was really looking forward to, and that was a real bummer that didn't happen. But I mean, to go into it, and just kind of goes back to showing what kind of USDA we're working with now. Like, they were open to coming to the sale barn, right, and doing the announcement there. right?
Yeah, we had all these round tables set up, and yeah, we were
You were
excited
going to
about
be in the like sale barn, and yeah, that's where she was
exactly
open to taking
that was.
questions there, and
Mhm. We had
so
two Trump rallies here, and so we were kind of thinking of how to, we were gonna basically just copy those and get everything set up the same way with the stages and the, all the decorations and everything. And we were reaching out to them saying, what signs can we put up? Because this isn't like a political campaign
mhm.
type. This is USDA. We can't have Ranchers for Trump signs up there. So we were already working with them on what kind of decorations we could have and different things like that before the government shutdown happened.
Yeah, and
I
your trip,
propose we still have that. We should do
yeah,
that.
that's what we get. Let's keep trying to get something going there. That'd be,
That would be good. Then we'll sell Shad some feeder cattle when he's out here.
yeah,
Eeh, my
yeah.
checkbook's empty, bro, and I haven't even got half of the cattle I need.
It does take more money, doesn't it?
Ooh, baby, it's
Yeah.
great.
But to go back to your day at the White, I can remember talking to you. I think because we were in the middle of harvest and I was driving truck, and I remember you were like, "Well, I don't know if I can make it because we got this. Wasn't it like a cow sale or something?
Well, we
You're
had
getting ready for?"
so our feeder sales are always on the first and third Friday of each month. And because of Brooke Rollins' schedule, we decided to move our feeder sale to that week just because we wanted there to be a lot of cattle around here and a lot of activity. So we moved our sale to that week. And then when the event here in Fallon got canceled, then here we were being invited to the White House, and we had 6,000 head of cattle standing here. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was on, but
And you flew out like that day, got in like the middle of the night
mhm.
to DC.
Yeah, I flew out on a Tuesday, I guess, and then that was all on Wednesday. So I missed our
Yeah.
regular so Wednesday, and then and then flew back
Yeah,
here.
you had a sale on Wednesday, and that's what you weren't wanting to miss. Because I
Right.
remember talking to you, and I was like, you gotta get out there."
Yeah.
But like Wednesday, like go through like the day. So you got there in the middle of the night, and then you get up the next day, getting ready to go to the White House. Um, how did that all go down?
Yeah, we got up early the next morning and got to the White House and got checked in. And I remember the one of the first gals there that we met that was helping us in. She's like, "Now, are y'all with LMA?"
No,
No, we're not.
they were looking for the other guys.
Right. Yeah, they thought we were with the other guys. They thought we were those guys showing up that no showed.
Oh,
Yeah, we got in there and then we just kept waiting and waiting and waiting for those guys to show up, which was crazy because it gave us like an hour and a half of just uninterrupted time with Secretary Kennedy and Loeffler
Wow,
and Rollins and Burgum. So
that's
we
awesome.
got a long list of. I was
yeah.
like, I'm not wasting this opportunity. So
Yeah, so you're just sitting there with the cabinet. For those that don't know, Loeffler's Small Business Association, Kennedy's Health and Human Service, and Burgum is Department of Interior.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and so you're just sitting around, kind of shooting the
Yeah, it
bull.
was just kind of like we are right now. I mean, we talked about just everything you can imagine. I was like, man, I got to talk to these guys about the 30-month rule because that's a big thing to me. And just knowing that these older animals are just better beef. And so, all in the name of export, we've got this 30-month rule that was due to a mad cow, a Holstein, in a foreign country 23 years ago.
Yeah, go into that. That's something you like to talk about. And I think people hear 30-month rule and they don't really know what you're talking about. And I don't know all the details behind it. So, yeah, just like what is that? To somebody who's never heard about what the 30-month rule is, what is that?
Well, as cattle are processed, a 2-year-old has two big teeth that come out in the middle, and a coming 3-year-old has those 3-year-old teeth popping through their gums. And so that's how the USDA inspectors tell whether an animal's under 30 months or over 30 months is those 3-year-old teeth coming in. And so due to mad cow disease in 2003 in Canada, are the countries that we export to said, well, we're not going to take any cattle that are over, I think at that time it was 20 or 24 months. So that's like on my parents were selling their cattle in the video at that time. And it was a big deal of age and source verified. And so these cattle, like you had to have the birthday of the first calf born on your ranch written down and ear tagged and all that. And so that was all for export. And so here we are now, all these years later, and we don't have enough beef to even feed our own country, and we're still operating under rules that are designed for export market. And what I tell people all the time is those export dollars never trickle down to my producers, my customers, or to me. That's all just gravy for the packers, the export. And so the 30-month rule is just, it's outdated. We're through that. We're not grinding up bones of cattle anymore and feeding them back to cattle. We don't have BSE. It's outdated. But nobody has, I mean, you talk to anybody at USDA, they look at you like you got owls coming out of your head if you bring up the 30-month rule. Nobody even knows what it is.
So is it, what is your goal with that? Is it just to delineate the rule itself?
Yeah, just eliminate it. I mean, it's been proven that these cattle that are over 30 months or even over 48 months are nearly double in nutritional value, and they grade and yield better. So this whole industry has all went in the direction of younger in the name of efficiency. And the beef on dairy plays into that. They're trying to make these 1,800 pound, 12-month-old fat cattle. I mean, basically you're eating veal. I just don't like the thought of it myself personally. I kind of want to eat one that's been around a minute, you know? And anytime you talk to anybody in the industry, including ranchers, just they have this mentality that younger is going to be better. Why? Who told you that? Have you ever taken one that's 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months, 48 months, 60 months? Have you ever had any of them fattened all the same and processed and tested them? No, nobody has. They just believe that younger is going to be more tender.
Well, and that's because we've bought into the efficiency model of what you're exactly talking about, right? And it's kind of like I told Jim last time on our show, you know, we sent all of our kids off to college saying, don't come back. And what we did is we created this era where people think that they're supposed to go to work for the corporates. And so the corporates have been driving all that, Jack. And that's exactly why we have that mentality. And I'm just as guilty as anybody else.
Yeah. My old Aunt Ruby, she's passed away now, but she would always say the best beef you can eat would be like a 3 or 4-year-old steer coming off the mountain in the fall after the grass is cured. And so I think it was kind of like in that era, it would be grass-fed beef, or not grass-fed, but grain-fed, because the grain heads in those native grasses had cured, gone to seed.
Sure.
You know, so she was kind of talking like September in this country. The best beef you could eat would be a fat steer in September that had some age on him, you know. And
same exact thing in Southeast Colorado where I'm from. You know, you get, if you have the ample summer rains and we're short grass country, blue grandma shoots up there, makes a head. And all the old timers talk about how that head was just like grain, right? And they didn't kill anything until, we talk about yearlings today being yearlings. A yearling to them was a 4-year-old, right?
Right.
I mean, that's how it was.
Yes. But in the name of efficiency, you're just a village idiot if you're not trying to get one dead at 18 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's where this is going to sound almost like a foreign language, I think, to people in my country, because it's just like, you know, they hit 10 months or whatever, they're all in a feedlot. And so like the reason you bring this up is, you know, just it would work better for the cattle you raise, right? Is that your main push with the 30-month rule or the nutritional value?
Well, both. I mean, you know, look at all these 3 and 4-year-old heiferettes that are they go to be rebreeds, or you know, if you got a 3-year-old that's open and you put her back with the bull in our country to make a fall calver out of her, that's great. But some of those don't always breed. Well, then they just go off to be a butcher cow.
Right.
That is the best beef in the world, right there.
I will agree.
If you take your 3 and 4-year-old open heiferettes and finish them out, you won't believe the quality of beef. And then one of the things that we were going to do when Secretary Rollins came here to our sale barn is we had a bunch of big old steers processed, and then we were sending that meat off to get it sampled and tested for nutritional value. And we just wanted to show it on paper. Here's your imported beef from these other countries, which of course is going to be hard to tell which beef that is because it's not labeled. But here's your Walmart beef. And then here's these steers we're talking about. And then here's the tests on paper, the nutritional value, and then also the flavor. And just let folks like her see for themselves the difference.
So did you send that off? Are you waiting on results, or what's the?
No, we didn't, because the whole thing got canceled.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah,
didn't send it off. Do you have
right.
any more? Because you butchered. How old were they?
Oh, they're big old dudes. They're like 5, 6 years old. They were
Right.
steers that
And
I kind of kept around just to show this as an example. And I'm not saying that the whole industry should all do this. I just want the industry to understand that the 30-month rule is just a tool for the packers to dock us. When I send cattle off, even if I know exactly how old they are, when I send cattle off to be finished, I'm talking not a truckload or two. I'm talking thousands of them. You're looking at 10 or 20% deduct at $200 or $300 a head for the 30-month rule. It's just a license to steal. I know how old the cattle are, but when you get your returns back, 20% were over 30 months. They deducted you $200 a head. And why wouldn't they if they can get away with it?
right. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that is interesting, and I mean, that's why it's interesting talking to people from so far away, and you're like, your whole operation is just so much different than how anybody does anything around here and most places, I think, too.
Well, it's
Um,
not really that much different, Jim. I mean, we calve in March and we wean in the fall, which is like October through now. And if we
yeah,
decided to keep those calves over till they were yearlings, then we would run them till next August or September, 18 months, and then they would go to a feedlot. So our cattle, when we retain ownership and finish them, they're still not over 30 months when they get to the packing plant.
Yeah.
But they just automatically deduct 10 or 20% of your cattle at $200 or $300 a head because they can. That's why I call it license to steal.
Yeah.
All in the name of export to a foreign country for the money that never trickles down to us. And so if America's really in a beef crisis and can't feed itself, why is this whole model set up for export? Why don't we start feeding the American? I mean, beef demand is up right now. And we all know beef demand is up. Beef demand is up because of the keto diet or carnivore diet or whatever you want to call it. Imagine how much more beef demand there would be if we were feeding the American citizens good beef.
yeah,
We're exporting our good beef and importing this junk from foreign countries, and people are still demanding more beef. Like if you took these big steers that we had processed and you were feeding those to your neighbor, like everybody that comes in here is like, that's the best hamburger I've ever ate, because they're not used to eating that. They're used to eating these 12-month-old fats
right.
that have not had a chance to get their full flavor yet.
Or even the mixed stuff. I mean, I've run out of hamburger before, and so Mundorf Heritage Beef. I guess I was gonna bring that up anyway. My brother, and my nephew are selling beef direct to consumer, Mundorf Heritage Beef. You can go, but yeah, it's just a big difference between what you're gonna get at the store, and what you're gonna, what you can get when you take your animals to locker. But yeah, and then I suppose it's even different when you got a 5-year-old steer. I remember you sent me that picture of them. I couldn't hardly. They about look like cows when they get that old.
Yeah, they do. They are, and
Yeah,
that's anyway. Yeah, we could talk about that for hours, but the main thing that the consumers need to understand is an older animal is not going to be tougher. It's not going to be rank and nasty. They're going to be better. And so if you don't believe me, just go try some. Take a 3 or 4-year-old heiferette, finish her out, get her processed, and learn for yourself that we've all been lied to with this efficiency model.
yeah. And so you were, to go back where we started, you were in the White House giving this same spiel to RFK Jr. Is that right?
It was, yeah. And then Burgum walked in the door, and then RFK's like, "Doug, get over here. You got to hear this." And so I told it all again. So I'm sitting there talking to them, and they're just like, "That just doesn't make any sense." And
Hmm.
then Secretary Rollins walked in the room, and they're like, "Brooke, get over here. You got to hear this." So then I told it like a third time, and they're just like, "We just got to get that ended. That's just stupid."
And that's not anything that had came up in your original when you had met before with the plan, any of that
It
stuff.
was something that I was wanting to present, but
Right.
our focus was public land grazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it ties into public land grazing. So if we're out here trying to reduce fuels, everybody's trying to nobody's carrying their calves over to yearlings because they got to get in there, get them finished before they get too old. And so this would, getting rid of the 30-month rule would actually encourage people to run their calves over to yearlings, and that would increase grazing in the West and reduce fuels. And, they talk about those AUMs being $100 return to the local economy. And so every yearling that gets carried over and ran on that ranch another year is another, 12 AUMs, I guess, if you run out year round. So that's just more money back in your local economy if people are carrying their calves over. But you can't have a club like the 30-month rule beating them over the head if they run their calves over.
Right.
So the 30-month rule definitely ties into public land grazing.
Yeah, and I think that's really an example of how every region is different and how every producer is different. Because, if you get, west of the 110th prime meridian, we all focus on range, right? It's all about range grazing. Grazing, that's my program. I don't want to feed anything. I want everything to make its own living. And you get east of the 110th prime meridian, it's a whole different story, right? And so we've kind of bought into what you're exactly talking about. It makes a lot of sense. I'm glad we brought it up here.
Yeah. Kudos to us.
Good job, gentlemen.
Uh, and so I guess to go back into your story, then you get called into the Oval Office, I guess. What was, and this is, I mean, how many days had went by since Trump had brought that Argentinian thing up, right? Like he said, we're going to bring in Argentinian beef to lower beef prices.
He said we could. He was on
Mm.
the airplane when he did
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it
He
was
said
just
we
kind of a,
could.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think it's only
anyway,
been a couple days, Jim. I
Yeah, it
don't.
was just a
yeah,
couple
it
days.
still seemed like people were upset that he had said that. So, and yeah, so then you walk into the Oval Office, and how'd that go?
Yeah, so I'd been at the ranch up in Idaho shipping cattle, and I'd been out of service. I hadn't seen anything on Facebook or any news. There's no TV there. And so when I got back to service, there's just all these messages, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" Well, while I was there shipping, the brand inspector's asking me what I think. The truck drivers are asking me, "What's going to happen? Is the market going to crash with all the Argentine beef?" And so I get back to service and start doing some research, and you guys are probably a couple of guys that I'd called and just said, "What's going on?" And so, yeah. And I kind of overreacted too at the time. Luckily, I had been out of service, so I didn't get to pile on like everybody else that was all bashing on the president. So by the time I got to service, I got to kind of checking into it, and I'm just like, well, it's not that much beef. And then the first thing that popped into my mind is like, well, man, all these guys are piling on and cussing the president over this Argentine import deal. Where have they been on Brazil and Mexico and Uruguay and Australia? And I mean, we're importing beef from
Namibia.
yeah, everywhere. And I honestly think this, and maybe someday I'll be proven wrong, but I just think that there's a whole bunch of closet Democrats and people that are pissed at Trump. And it's not been popular to be against Trump because, everywhere you go, there's ranchers for Trump, Trump Vance 2024 signs everywhere. I think a lot of these people that just didn't like Trump from the get go, they saw some momentum. They saw some momentum that everybody was pissed at Trump, and like they came out guns a blazing.
Especially the agriculture non-Trump supporters, right? I mean, they
NCBA, is that
really
what we can just say it? They're still talking about
they
Argentinian
are.
beef and how
It drew a line in the sand and it separated the sheep from the goats for sure. And then they doubled down, like Jack said. But it really did delineate the people who are true Trump supporters from those who were on the line, and then those who may have the subsidy issue was a big issue too.
Right. So here we are. Trump's out here saying that climate change is a hoax and all this, but they've got their whole basis set up around selling the three of us bulls that are going to be more environmentally friendly. Well, if the problem of climate change goes away, then their bull's just black and
More
has two.
bulls.
Right.
Mhm.
He's just a black bull. And
Yeah.
so I just honestly think that there was some underlining they were ticked off about that deal and they just saw an opportunity.
Yeah, and they jumped on it. And that's what, yeah. I mean, when you get to talking to people, there have been people pushing this low carbon genetic line they have been working towards this for years.
Mhm.
And now that all that's kind of getting thrown out the window, all the carbon market and the ESG and all that stuff is getting definitely pushed back against. Yeah, those guys that have invested all that time and money in these
Right.
low carbon bulls, yeah, they're stuck holding the bag. And
Well, and we had, the Climate Smart Commodity Program and all of these contracts from the last administration. And so all of the people had really invested themselves into this fake climate change narrative that was going to pay them.
Mhm.
And then Trump comes out and says, we're going to end all that nonsense. So everybody was taken
yeah,
aback and afraid that they were going to end all that, not follow through with their contracts, and so that had a lot of that really did. It ended up separating the sheep from the goats. So
So then you got to ask yourselves how many of those guys actually did not vote.
exactly.
yeah. I mean, if you had invested a ton on figuring out how to measure your greenhouse gases, and there's a candidate saying we're done with that. I mean, yeah, I would guess that there
Well,
was definitely, which is all of the ag lobby. I mean, you could look at almost everybody,
all of them.
all of the big corporates,
Mhm.
everybody was all in on that crap.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Jack, you have how many times have you met President Trump?
Just that was well. I guess I
Not,
met him in Vegas. I met him in Vegas
yeah,
when we'd had
yeah,
that fundraiser and raised some money
right.
for him.
And so
Just
how and
yeah,
so over the years, over the two presidencies, how much money have you raised for him?
well, through our two ranchers for Trump deal here in 16 and then in 2020 or yeah 2020, I guess, not money, not my personal money. I mean, I
No,
donated
but
plenty myself, but yeah, I think close to 700,000 800,000.
okay, that's an enormous amount of money. Now, so when you did, what did you come away from the Oval Office feeling? I mean, I know it wasn't very long. How long was it? 10, 20 minutes with him? And how did you feel about him personally? That's what I want to know.
I mean, I still love the guy as much as everything that I thought he was, and this the things he said while we were in there. When I uh, so as we walked in, he says, "These cattle are high because of my tariffs, right, ranchers? Are you guys real ranchers?" That's what he said to Hayden and I. And I just said, "Well, they're partially high because of your tariffs. They're also high because of the Mexican border being closed, and because so many producers have gone out of business. There's just less cattle in this country." And then that's when Secretary Rollins kind of intervened, and she's like, "Sir, he's talking about the Mexican border being closed to the screwworm and cattle, not to immigrants." She didn't say not to immigrants, but I think that's what, because I'm sure in his mind he's thinking the border's
Sure.
closed.
Yeah.
mhm.
He's thinking immigration, and then I got the opportunity to say, crossing cattle across that Mexican border. I said, when you're bringing cattle in from Mexico, you're funding terrorism, the same as buying oil from the Middle East. The cartels are heavily involved in the Mexican cattle trade, whether people want to admit to it or not. They're laundering money down there, and they're also, we think, crossing drugs in the cattle themselves, in the fentanyl balloons. I mean, back in the 70s, they were crossing cattle across the Mexican border and dehorning them and filling the horns full of drugs and putting the horns back on and casting them on there and painting over them. So, if they were doing that in 1970, they're probably going to do
Yeah.
it now. In
I
a,
remember back then when they were
right,
doing it.
right. So let's not be naive and pretend that the cartels aren't crossing the border with cattle and using the cattle as the mules for drugs, especially now that the border's closed and they're not using human trafficking for crossing the drugs. And so anyway, I was talking to him about that, and then he says, "Well, we got 3 more of them in the water today, and we're starting on the land next." He was talking about blowing up drug boats.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it was in the news like the night before that meeting. That might have been the first one they shot down.
yeah,
They blew up.
wow.
yeah. So anyway, I mean, just that's what he said. Those were his exact words. He said, "We got 3 more of them in the water today, and we're starting on the land next." Because I had brought up drugs and
Sure.
all and terrorism and the cattle, and then I just didn't want to miss this rare opportunity to talk to him about public land grazing and what we face in the West, and these Clinton Obama carryover employees that are all just
Yes.
on moles. They're just hunkered down in there waiting
Yes.
for Gavin Newsom or whoever to get back in, and then they're going to rear their ugly heads again. And so I just told him, I said, you did your executive orders in 2018 for fuels reduction. And I said, I've applied for targeted grazing every year since then, 7 years. only to be laughed at by my local BLM office every time. And then he said, well, can you get us a list? And I said, a list? And he said, yeah, get us a list. And he was talking about the employees, you know? And so, I mean, that's all the stuff I wanted to hear. Wanted to hear that I don't have to put up with these people that are anti-cattle and that have this Western watersheds type mentality, that we can actually make a phone call and that maybe
Absolutely.
some of them will be transferred to a park in New York or let go or something. So how cool is it for somebody like us to have a voice, you know?
That's exactly what Jim and I have been talking about, how rare it is for just common men and women whose everyday lives depend on the land to have a voice in Washington, D.C. at such a high level.
I got to
And
tell you this a quick story about it's 100,000 acres of our ranch at Alpine that we've not been able to use in 3 years because of flash floods. And it's the best end of our ranch. It's probably the most expensive end of our ranch to run because there's no water there. There's one well we pump, and then we got a haul water. But all that country has burned over the last few years, and so there's just feed. Like, it's just, you can't believe it unless you saw it yourself. 100,000 acres. I mean, that's several ranches put
massive.
together. That's
That's
a
massive.
massive amount of country that we cannot use because there's no water in there. The road washed out, so we've been trying to get the BLM to fix the road. We could go in and fix the road, but this flash flood took out some serious, like, the road is like it's cut into the bank of a steep draw or canyon going down in there, and so it kind of took it all out. So for us to go in there and fix it, we'd have to move some serious material. And we got the cats to do it, but I was like, we're going to go in there and do all that, and we're going to get in big trouble and probably get arrested or something. And so,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, and the BLM has these bulldozers running everywhere every time there's a fire. Um, a few years ago, they tipped a backhoe over on our ranch, and I offered to go in there with our excavator and tip it back over for them. They said, no, we're going to bring in a crane. They went and rented a several $1 million crane, come in and build a huge pad to set this crane up to tip a little backhoe back over that I could have had done in 30 minutes. But yet when I needed my road fixed, they couldn't go rent a cat. They could rent a crane, but not a cat. And so I finally got ticked off. I've been working with them for years trying to get him to do it, and I finally lost my patience. So I texted RFK, you know, which is weird. Like, we're reaching out to Health and Human Services guy to get a road fixed in Nevada on BLM. And so I reached out to him and I told him, I said, you know, here, Secretary Rollins and Burgum are trying to expand grazing on public land and these vacant allotments. Here we have 100,000 acres that's open to grazing now that we can't use because of a simple road. And next day I was we were weaning calves off in Shoshone Meadows, and I get back to service. We're transferring cattle off the goosenecks onto a bull wagon because you can't get a bull wagon down that road either. Not because of the BLM, just because of the terrain. And I get this text from somebody under Burgum, and he says, call me. So I call him and he says, I got good news for you. You're going to have a cat there Monday morning. So
and did they have it there?
Yes, the road is fixed.
Wow.
So RFK,
that's awesome.
Probably texted Burgum, and Burgum got a hold of his guy, and his guy got a hold of the director of Nevada, and Monday morning the cat showed up.
That's how you make shit happen.
Right, but we would never have that voice. Do you think Kamala?
No, exactly.
Well, anybody. I mean, even it goes back to, like, it's a clip now that's kind of going around on Facebook as he's talking that rice farmer,
right?
Gal Merrill. I can't remember her last name, but you know, you never saw presidents do that kind of stuff. Like, she brought up a problem and he was like, right in front of the cameras, everything. He's like, what's that? And he goes, write this down, right? Like, he was telling him, write this down and list it off for me. List the countries off that are screwing over U.S. producers. And, you know, before it was always, you know, like a press, you know, it's just all PR, you know, it wasn't ever really getting anything done. And that's where it seems it's so refreshing to see, I guess, and hear about.
Yeah. It's for the people.
Well, I did a Facebook post today. I shared that her video, and then I just said, imagine what kind of press release we could have had with President Trump if those guys would have showed up and not stood him up, you know? Imagine the unscripted moments of that press release that might have came out.
Yeah. And so I guess the elephant in the room, we've mentioned a number of times, the Common Ground group was invited to, according to them, they were invited to come They were mad, according to them, they were mad about the Argentinian beef comments and didn't want to be there for a release that they didn't know what it was going to be. So um, that's who didn't show up that we keep mentioning, I guess.
The
And
guys that were
so,
always about a seat at the table didn't show
right,
up to that seat.
right, yeah,
Oh, the irony.
right.
Irony.
But
Yeah. He'll sit down with Bezos, Gates, anybody. You got to
Yeah.
have a seat at the table.
Well, what blew my mind about the whole thing was that whether you agree or not, I mean, if Kamala Harris was in the Oval Office and she called me up and said, "Shad, I want you to come and talk to me about cattle," and I didn't know what it was, even I would go see Kamala Harris in the Oval Office to see what she wanted. And so the absolute arrogance of that group not going because they didn't know what he was, what he was going to present. I just thought it was very humiliating for the president and disrespectful to the office. And I, right or wrong, that's how I feel about it. I would have never done that. I want to hear my enemies out, right? And it's not that he was an enemy, but I do want to know what my enemies are talking about and what they think. And so I'm willing to communicate with them on whatever level needs to be communicated on just to see what's going on. And that's kind of how I stand on that.
Well, maybe he is their enemy.
Well, whether he is or he isn't, he deserved the respect as the president and the most powerful man in the in the world, to be heard. I mean, his presence alone in the Oval Office demands respect. And a lot of people are talking about how we don't respect those offices and those positions anymore, and that's true. Well, where's the decorum from us, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I feel.
And maybe if he's the enemy, then we have to go back and ask, why is he their enemy? And then it
yeah,
all comes back to this carbon methane deal.
right. Why would Cattle Group not want to FaceTime with the I mean, how many ranchers have ever got throughout the history of whatever FaceTime with the
Especially where they
president?
said, 90% of agriculture or rural America voted for, or cattle producers voted for President Trump. Those are the
Mhm.
people that voted for him. Why in the hell didn't they listen or go talk to him?
Yeah. Well,
Well, you were there, and so I guess you got your. Was anything? Was it like filmed? Was it? It wasn't like a press conference. Was it planned to be a press conference?
it was planned to be, but I think that's why I got the hour and a half with those cabinet members waiting for those guys to show up. And then when they didn't show up, like the press and everybody finally went away. And then Burgum, he come in and he said, "Well, guys, I got a plane to catch and good meeting you." And he took off. And then we got to go in and talk to the president. So at that time, it was just,
Oh, so there was press there when you were sitting around, and they were just kind of hanging out waiting.
I think the press was going to be outside at that in that press release area.
Okay.
That's where they were.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, how long were you in the Oval Office?
In the Oval Office, not more than 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we were in the Roosevelt room there for the hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you were kind of in and out, and then back home, right?
Yeah, I got out of there, I guess, that evening and got into Reno, and it was pretty late there. So I got a room in Reno and then got back here to the sale barn early the next morning.
Yeah, I remember. I talked about it on the show. I said I called you up the next morning. I was like, "What are you doing?" And you go, "I saddled a horse. I'm walking down the alley."
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Me and old Tucker, we were getting ready to go ride around and see what cattle needed sorted.
Well, Jack Payne, since you have friends in high places, could you text President Trump and tell him that the Lonesome Report would like a press pass, please?
Yeah, make sure we're included next time you head out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish RCAF would have made it to that, because I really thought that RCAF was going to be there from conversations we'd had the day before. I wish they'd have been there because they would have had enough respect for that office to have showed up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So, I guess now I'd heard about your sale on Friday. I mean, moving forward, now we're back to the record highs, right? So on Feeder Flash this morning, he was talking about your sale. How many record highs?
He said 29.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's keeping track and you're not?
I think it's all just automated through that.
Yeah, so they look at their records of what you've sold?
Yes.
Oh,
Everything like from our block, on our auction ring goes straight into their database, and then that whole that whole animal of itself is just cranking out numbers.
yeah, yeah. So how far
Amazing.
we've come, right?
Yep. The database.
It was the week or two after that deal was crazy, but it's all kind of
I
right
mean, that
back
was
where we
all.
were.
I mean, just look at all the people that sold their cattle for way less money than what they should have sold them for, and who profited off of that. That's a good question. That's a question that needs asked.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
who was windrowing those cheap cattle and getting them put away in that time? I mean, good for the guys that were doing it, but
Yeah. Well, probably never know.
no.
We're long past that.
Right.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I got that we talked about earlier. Just confidence, these producers just trying to get these kids to come home to these ranches and dive into those long hours and taking that risk and borrowing all that money. And that's one of the things that I kept trying to get across to everybody that I've talked to in DC is we just got to get these ranchers some confidence. They just cannot have the rug jerked out from underneath them every time they turn around. And
Hmm.
especially by their own government. If it's a black swan or a natural disaster or something, that's one thing. But when it's our own government doing it to us, you can't ask us to go out and borrow millions and buy ranches and buy cattle and take risk if you're going to be the black swan.
Yeah. So you think you're making progress?
I hope so. I mean, I'm sure people think that I just have like 1-800 Donald Trump in my phone, and I obviously don't. Um, RFK has been one of my best contacts and the one that responds to me pretty much every time. And so trying to work through him to do what I can, but I haven't been pestering him that much really because my days are pretty full as it is. Just trying to run this ranch and the sale barn, especially this time of year. We'll start slowing down here, and then I'll be able to get more into that. But
Hmm. And as far as like the beef plan, what did she say when, as far as the rollout? Like, is there going to be more meetings? And I've heard her say multiple times that like this is a start, right? And so is there more meetings or with your group or is there any plans for that?
yeah, nothing set in stone. There's
Yeah,
been discussions, but yeah, nothing
right.
set.
Keep things rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you believe
well,
how busy she is? I mean, she's just.
yeah.
I mean, we're just on the ranching side of this, but this country's in a crisis with the farm. With the farm situation is ranchers are making money right now, and we're all wanting to whine and complain about that little dip in the market. These farmers are, I'm sure that's taking a lot of her attention in the
Well,
school.
and production agriculture is a very small part of her job, right?
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, USDA is a massive, massive bureaucracy. And you alluded to a great point a while ago where you have all those holdovers. And I have heard, there's a lot of those holdovers doubling down USDA. So they have all these issues. And I'm pretty sure she's probably putting in 20-hour days.
I'm sure she is. I hope that AFPI, which is the group that she started, I hope they're giving her some serious support. We've heard discussions of them, possibly filing some suit against some of these NGOs, and we
We
sure
need to
need.
make that happen. And I myself personally am putting pressure on AFPI to make all of that happen because these organizations that are funding the demise of ranchers across the United States through public-private partnerships obviously have totally doubled down, and they've become these issues are state issues. We were talking about the Bob Greif in Washington, the Wade and Teresa King in Washington. Now there's two or three deals in Montana. All of it um, has to be looked at because we've got to take some sort of federal oversight over these states, these blue states that are doubling down against private property rights.
Have
So,
you guys seen the guy that at the California Department of Wildlife that was introducing the wolves and all that has taken his job at Nature Conservancy?
yes.
Like, you don't think the wolves were just part of that whole plan? I
Was
mean,
it was it he took was it the Department of Wildlife went to Nature Conservancy or did Nature Conservancy go to department?
No.
No, he
Oh,
went to
okay.
the Nature Conservancy.
Yep.
Had the same issue, Jack, in Colorado, where one of the guys who was integral in introducing the wolves, the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, asked him to resign or be fired, and so he resigned. And then they turned around and gave him a job. So it's such a mess everywhere you look. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the first part is getting the taxpayers to stop funding it, and that goes into that climate deal and all of that. I mean, you talk about the NGOs that are funding it and Nature Conservancy. I can't remember what the number was that they received from the federal government, but it goes back to that Doge deal. And I mean, kind of, you talk about our year, what a year it's been. Last January is when I think it was January, we sat down and broke all that stuff about Doge and all those Nature Conservancy and all the others that were raking in money from the federal government. So it's really taxpayers that are funding the NGOs that are. I
Yes.
mean, it's just a complicated process, and I feel like we're getting started though. We've done some things. You think about the last year, what a trip it's been. More for you, Jack, than anybody, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Like,
there's so much hope though. Like, I mean, I just feel good about the hope that we have. Can you imagine if Kamala would have won? Just like where would I mean, people don't even they can't even begin to comprehend what could have happened. Like, would the American dollar still even be our currency?
I don't
Like,
know, but it would be under full force communism already. I
yeah,
mean, they
yeah,
would have taken us to the pits in a hurry.
they had plans of the euro or whatever. Like our currency was going to go to nothing. Like, imagine what these cattle would be worth. Can you even imagine?
Mm.
I mean, I went and bought an LRP. I think it was like 230 a pound on four weights or something is what I ended up getting on that LRP. But I thought, crap, they might go to 80 cents. Like these cattle could get to be worth nothing, zero, if she had won. I mean, that's the fear that I had. And people, the Democrats listen to this are going to say, oh, you're crazy. And cattle are always higher under a Democrat. Well, Democrats aren't on CNN saying we're going to limit beef consumption for global warming either,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're
Or price
not.
controls or any of that
Yeah,
stuff.
cattle are killing the planet.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jim, I see that book on your bookshelf. Have you read that?
Which one? The one you gave me? I made a lot
Yeah.
of tracks. I
Yeah.
started it, just like a lot of books, but I've read a good amount of it.
That's a good book.
Yeah, yeah. And that goes when you were talking about bringing cattle up from Mexico. That's what a lot of it is about, right? Or what I'm reading now.
Yeah. His biggest year, he crossed 270,000 head across from down
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And that was
He,
back in
I think the
what year?
50s or
60s?
60s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. 50s or 60s.
Yeah. He would go way down in there into Mexico and he would hire Tahinian or whatever they're Indians. I mean, they're in Mexico, but they're Indians. And he would hire them to trail those cattle north. And he would just buy one steer from one person and they would start driving him north and they would buy more steers as they went. And when they got to the border, they could cross 10,000, Can you imagine?
Wow.
But that was before the cartel and there was just honest Mexican ranchers
Yeah,
down there.
Yeah.
And
for
it's a
sure.
different. Huh.
Hmm. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, but in that book, he talks about the dairy buyout was a big thing that he talked about, and how he went to Mexico and the Middle East trying to get um, these dairy cows in America shipped to there because those countries needed them for milk. And he tried exporting beef, dairy cows from here so that they wouldn't flood the hamburger market in America and tank the market.
Hmm.
So it went both ways at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Stadler. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Stadler. I made a lot of tracks. Well, you got good eyes. Or you got a big old screen or something to be able to see. Or you recognize it because you shipped it to me. It's not in print anymore. So if you're looking for it, I mean that
Yeah.
the way I got it is Jack sent it to me.
Yeah, it's a good book.
I'll have to send it to Shad when I'm done.
Yeah. I
Exactly.
mean, he was, Phil was a mover and a shaker. And
Did you know him?
no, he was, I wish I would have got to know him. I mean, I know people that know him and I know
Yeah.
he's done a little bit of business with him, but yeah, he was a major player. And there was a lot of big guys in California that are still in the business that started out with him. Like he helped finance him early on and got him going. And then the big wreck, I think it was Nixon's Price.
Yeah.
Beef.
1974.
Yep.
That's where I first saw it. Someone took a picture of the page where he talks about that, the price controls and what happened.
Yeah, and cattle went from 86 cents to 38 cents, like just right now. And then the high interest rates, and of course Phil was always trying to buy more land. You know, he knew that the real value was in the dirt, and so he was using cattle to buy more land. And then, just like all of us, got upside down at the bank, and and had to fight through all that, and the bank was not working with him. And anyway, if you read the book, it really helps the industry understand the struggles that our grandfathers and parents went through to try to keep these ranches together, And now here we are today wondering what they're going to be able to hand them off to our kids and grandkids.
Yeah, that was a great point. That's one of the biggest issues we're focusing on here is honoring those who came before and put all the work into it to try to keep this thing, the legacy or the dream alive. And I think that is one of the things we have to pound into our associates that we've made contacts with, Jack, pound into their head. It's almost impossible to keep these things going anymore, just for the sheer for multiple reasons, right? I mean, multiple. So
it's death from 1,000 cuts. I mean, they're just coming out from every direction, and when you start adding them all up, that's why the 30-month rule. It's not going to make or break us, but it's just one more cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as they're deducting that money out of your check, and then
it's a good point.
Move cattle over here somewhere, and you've hauled a bunch of water in there, and you're going to move a bunch of cattle, and you get there, and the feral horses have drank all the water and ate all the feed, and then you turn around and the wolves or coyotes are killing your calves. I mean, it's coming at you from every angle, and man, ranchers got to be a bunch of tough SOBs, or they just throw in the towel and give up.
That's one thing they don't have is give up.
Yeah,
that's what I love about it.
Right, but if the American consumer saw how hard we were working for what little bit of money we're making just for this noble idea we have in our head that it's our responsibility to feed them, it's like, how about you guys go feed yourselves?
I think, honestly, I think the majority of our consumers understand, at least from our generation back, they understand. Now, I'm not saying the newer generation, the younger generation understands really what it takes to put a meal on their plate. But I think the older people do. And I think that's one thing that President Trump and Secretary Rollins, organizations like AFPI and many others have created this place for us to bridge that gap, so to speak, between that. I mean, what AJ Richards is doing from the farm, all of that counts. And so the more we can educate them on how hard it really is, and it is hard. And I'm 51 years old and I'm tired. But we will get respect. The people that don't respect it are the loudest minority, right? It's the minority of the people, but they are the loudest. And we do have some people out there, some organizations that are against us. Western Watersheds, for an example, and they're everywhere. So we have to. I love the word noble because it is a noble cause. And I don't know.
We're making progress, though. I mean, the one thing that Argentinian beef, to go back to, brought up when he said that, I heard so many people on the radio and different people. If I could have a label on if I could see where my beef was coming from, if I knew I was buying it from an American rancher, I would pay more. That's what I kept hearing. So, yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
There goes Mr. Peel's argument that the consumers don't care, huh?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't care about him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's Christmas, Jack, and for those that didn't watch, if you want to see Jack, and I think you're the first person I think that we've had on 3 times or has been on the channel 3 times. This is your first time, me and Shad, but I've interviewed you 2 other times, I guess, and you talk about growing up in Jordan Valley. You didn't have, what was Christmas like? You didn't have water, right? Was it running water? Or
we had running water. We didn't have any power, but we
didn't have electricity.
Well, we didn't have power from like the grid, but we had an old Witty generator, you know, the
Oh,
old
okay.
crank. Yeah, my mom would, and we had propane lights, and
Yeah.
Christmas was great. It was, I mean, yeah, it was,
Yeah.
yeah. Grandparents would come up, and of course, there we always opened our package at Christmas Eve. That was, and then
Hmm.
on Sunday we would, or Christmas Day, we would just go feed cows and then eat a huge lunch and then sleep
Yeah.
the rest of the day and play with our toys, I guess, when we were little kids.
Yeah. It's always interesting to hear how people did it out in the as the real out in the real I don't know, sticks, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else?
Yeah, it's we've got a lot to be thankful for. I mean, I just
Amen.
think we really need to understand where we could be in this country and this industry. And I know things aren't perfect, but man, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I just think we got to keep our foot on the throttle.
Yeah, I
Right
agree.
on.
I agree with that. You and I were talking a little bit today, Jack, about, you know, Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, and I think that brings up the importance of the season, man. Merry Christmas to everybody because you buy into these lies, and I think, you know, there is a remnant of truth tellers out there, and we are a hard-headed bunch of truth tellers, and we got to keep it up. So let's go into 2026 with the pressure on.
Well, we gotta, Shad, you said we're doing 52. I think the first episode last year since New Year's, you said we're gonna do 52 of these. I think we missed one week, but I think we filled in with the extra one
Yeah, we filled in. We
with
filled
Harriet
in.
or something. But yeah, and I think the truth tellers are winning. So keep it up, you two. Thanks everybody. Go to lonesomelands.com, click on support if you want us to keep doing this deal. You got anything you want to promote, Jack? Go to Nevada Livestock Marketing to sell your calves, right?
Yeah, yeah. If you're in this end of the country, and if you want to buy cattle, you won't be disappointed with what you get out of here.
Yeah,
Just
or DV auction if you're not in that end of the country.
yeah, yeah. As far as buying, I think
Yeah.
just I've bought cattle out of a lot of other states and Arizona, California, Idaho, Oregon. Just I always just thought cattle were cattle. Like you just get them home, and as long as you do everything right, they're going to live. And I've learned the hard way that not all cattle are created equal. These Nevada cattle are just tough. They're kind of like the people here. They just got to work a little harder to get by, and so it just creates a tougher animal. And I think a four weight here is just older than four weights from most other places, also,
Got
which
a
means
lot of age. Yeah.
their rumen is going to be more developed, and when they get to your feet, they're going to convert better, and which has a lot to do with the health. So
It's a
anyway,
survival of the fittest, man.
exactly. When they're walking in 2 or 3 miles of dust every day to get to feed and water, they're
Dang
just
right.
a little dust pneumonia when they get to some feedlot. Isn't it's like every day is a good day for one that came out of Nevada if he gets somewhere else. So
If he gets some feed.
yep. Anyway,
All
all right,
right.
guys, they had me on.
Thanks for coming
Yes,
on,
thank
Jack. I
you.
appreciate it.
And a big thank you to George and Brett Kenzy. And they just decided to sponsor this episode, and I really appreciate that because they wanted to help us out. So, um,
Kenzy backgrounding.
Kenzy backgrounding.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
See you
Catch
next
up.
week.
Adios.